All right, folks, I really do at this time need everybody's attention. We need everybody's attention. You know, the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers, I can't whistle, that's the best you can guess. Who's got a whistle? There we go. We really do need everybody's attention. The Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers picnic is always a big, loud, rowdy, family-friendly event where activists on a number of conservative issues around the state get together and test the candidates who would support the grassroots. Hey, listen up, folks. And while every keynote speaker is an important participant in this event, not every single one of them got into a car this morning at 8:30 and drove from New York City to be with us here tonight. So, those of you who want to really hear what Betsey McCaughey, today's keynote speaker, has to say, should do two things. You should make your way toward this side of the room. There are chairs that are set up, although not nearly enough, so feel free to bring a chair and plunk it down around this stage.
No way to hook that in.
And while you're doing it, make sure you visit those candidates and organizations that brought tables here. You talk to their volunteers, you meet their candidate if they're still here, you pick up their stickers, their flyers, and everything else. And get yourself ready to listen to Betsey McCaughey. How many of you remember Hillary Care? All right, I need everybody's attention. Folks, there are very few times when the Master of Ceremonies at this event ever puts their foot down, but this is one of them. And I will bring this thing to a dead standstill until I have everybody's attention. So if you'd like to hear Betsey McCaughey, bring your chair, because even in the best of circumstances, you know how difficult it is to hear, particularly the closer to the bar you get. Bring your chair, bring yourselves, while I go through a brief interview of Betsey, not interview, but introduction of Betsey McCaughey. And for those of you who are new and want to know who this obnoxious guy in red is, I am the host of Gerard at Large in the Morning in Manchester. I have a local radio talk show on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio. And we are on from 6 to 9 every Monday through Friday, and our focus is local, 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 local. And so when we have people like Betsey McCaughey on the show, she gets to tell us how what happens in Washington screws up what happens in our town halls, our city halls, our school boards, and everywhere else. She's a doctor. She's a patient advocate, a constitutional scholar. Yeah, we do. I'll tell you what, I'll put Betsey McCaughey up against that alleged constitutional lawyer that claims to be our president any day. She's a syndicated columnist, a regular contributor on Fox News and CNBC. She's the former lieutenant governor of the great state of New York, or I should say the once great state of New York. In 1993, she read all 1,362 pages of Hillary Care. Whoa. And she liked that so much, she's read all 2,500 pages of Obamacare, which is why she was able to write the best-selling book, Beating Obamacare, which will give you the tools to outsmart the president's ever-changing law, avoid landmines while protecting your health, income, and freedom. And here's the woman who started it all by actually reading the bills, Dr. Betsey McCaughey. Bring it all in. Give her a warm Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers welcome. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. All right. Bring it on in, folks. Doctor, thank you so much for making the trip here to scenic Hillsborough, New Hampshire.
Thank you. I am so glad to be here, and especially to celebrate the birthday of the greatest nation in the world. We are exceptional. Thank you, despite what the president says. And I want to thank Jane for doing everything she did to put this together today. Okay, like this? Thank you.
Right up under your nose.
We are in the fight of our lifetimes. Our access to our doctors and hospitals, our rights, including our Second Amendment rights, and the very values that hold us together as a nation, including our commitment to the rule of law. All of these are under attack. You will play a critical role in retaking the United States Senate this fall for lovers of liberty. And you will play that key, first in the nation role in choosing the next president of the United States. Now, some Republicans in Washington are saying that it will be okay to live with this law and just fix it, repair it, improve it. No. They're saying that because they haven't read this law. Yeah. It is corrupt to the core. So I urge you, when you make that choice for the next presidential candidate, to choose someone who is committed not to repairing this law, to repealing this law entirely. Someone who is committed to lowering taxes by reining in the spending in Washington and in our state governments as well. And most importantly, someone who is committed to the United States Constitution, the finest document ever created by man. Someone who will take that oath to defend the Constitution seriously. This law shreds your constitutional rights. It lowers your standard of care. It puts government in charge of your care. And it takes away something as precious as life itself, your liberty. This law requires almost everyone to enroll in a one-size-fits-all government-designed health plan. Ooh. When you go to file your taxes, you have to literally attach proof that you are enrolled in one of those plans. You have to provide the carrier number, the premium number, the policy number. Doing so will shield you from a government penalty. But it will subject you to a degree of government control over your doctor and your health decisions unprecedented in American history. Section 1311 H1 capital B of this law empowers the Secretary of Health and Human Services to dictate how doctors treat privately insured patients. So even if you have Aetna or Cigna or Anthem, and you paid for it yourself entirely out of your own pocket, the government is still going to be calling the shots. Many of you saw me on Fox News talking about those new regulations this morning. What does that mean? Your doctor will be required to enter your medical information into an interoperative electronic database. Your doctor's decisions, starting next year, are going to be monitored for compliance with those government guidelines. And ultimately, your doctor may have to choose between doing what's right for you and avoiding a government penalty. Imagine the federal government, bureaucrats in Washington, telling your doctor when it's okay to choose a stent versus a bypass, telling your OBGYN when it's okay to do a cesarean or order a sonogram. The federal government will be coming between you and your doctor, and that's only part of it. The president promised, I'm sure you remember this, he promised he was going to solve the problem of the uninsured by making health plans more affordable. Right. But that's not what he did. You've gotten your premium hikes in the mail. Instead, this president vastly expanded Medicaid, and you've sure been through that controversy in New Hampshire, vastly expanded Medicaid and pays for it by eviscerating Medicare, taking $717 billion out of Medicare over one decade and moving it over to fund this vast expansion of Medicaid. It's robbing grandma to spread the wealth. That's right. Breaking a promise and robbing grandma to spread the wealth, and we are already seeing the implications. Doctors, for example, under Medicare are going to be paid less to take care of seniors than any other kind of patient. That's right. Good luck. Good luck. If you're in your 50s or early 60s, I say, no matter how healthy you are, line up your doctors now. Line up a cardiologist, line up an internist, because if you wait till you turn 65 and go on Medicare, you will not be able to find a doctor willing to take you on as a new Medicare patient. That's how little doctors are being paid. And you can see the results in the hospitals already because of the cuts in what hospitals are paid under Medicare. Hospitals are already laying off nurses and spreading the care thinner. In fact, I say to friends who are thinking about going into the hospital, try to cobble together enough money for a private duty nurse, at least for the first night, because when you press that button for pain control or help, you're going to wait a lot longer than in the past. And in addition to the across-the-board Medicare cuts to doctors and hospitals, Section 3000A of this law awards bonus points to the hospitals that spend the least per senior, not per patient, per senior. I wouldn't take my beloved dog to the vet that spends the least per animal. Why would I take my mother to the hospital that spends the least per senior? We have copious evidence from the Annals of Internal Medicine that hospitals that spend the least per senior have substantially higher death rates from pneumonia, congestive heart failure. The seniors treated in those lowest spending hospitals have a much poorer chance of getting well and making it home again. This law rewards all the hospitals for imitating those that have the highest death rates for seniors. Think about that. You know, I remember when I was a kid, people who were growing old got stuck in wheelchairs because of crippling arthritis, or they were trapped in nursing homes because of congestive heart failure and they were so out of breath. But now, older people enjoy their later years. 5 procedures have transformed the experience of aging in this country. What are they? Angioplasty, bypass surgery, cataract surgery, hip replacements, and knee replacements. Those 5 procedures have dramatically changed the experience of growing older. Now older people enjoy their later years. They travel, they continue to work, they do sports, they even come to meetings like this one. Yeah. Obamacare will undo that progress. The stakes are very high here because if you're seriously ill, the best place to be is in the United States. A woman diagnosed with breast cancer in the United States has a 90% chance of surviving it. But in Europe, her chances are less than 80%. You do the arithmetic, that means she's twice as likely to die. A man diagnosed with prostate cancer in the United States, it is not a death sentence here. But in Europe, nearly 1 out of every 4 men diagnosed with prostate cancer dies from it. And if someone in your family has what is currently considered an incurable disease, this is the nation of hope. This is where the cures are developed. Since 1950, the United States has won more Nobel Prizes in medicine and physiology than the entire rest of the world combined. And that's why defeating this law is the fight of our lifetimes. We will do it. We will. You know, Congress Congress should have taken this 2,572-page bill, and instead of making it a law, they should have put it in the paper shredder. Yes. And given us a 20-page bill in plain, honest English. 20 pages that members of Congress could read before voting on it. What a novel idea that is. 20 pages should be enough. The framers of our Constitution established the entire federal government in just 18 pages. The very size of this law makes it dangerous. The very size of it, take a look at that. The very size of it makes it dangerous. James Madison, the chief architect of the Constitution, warned us in Federalist number 62, warned us against a government, and these are his words, that would pass laws so voluminous no one could ever read them, and so frequently changed that a reasonable man would not know what the law is. That is Obamacare to a T. And this lawless president has constantly changed the law, amended the law, delayed the law, tampered with the law illegally, so that what he is rolling out now as Obamacare bears very little resemblance to the law that was actually enacted. A perversion, a destructive attack on the rule of law. And that's why this coming election, November 2014, is so critical. We must retake the United States Senate and put it in the hands of freedom-loving Americans. Not just any Republicans, freedom-loving Americans. Why? Well, we can slow down Obamacare, but far more important than that, we need to elect a new Senate Majority Leader. Oh, yes. Who will take a stroll down Pennsylvania Avenue and have a chat with the President of the United States and remind him that in this country, the rule of law is king, not Mr. Obama. Yes. And inform the President what happens to a chief executive of the United States who persistently defies the law of this nation. We must be able to hold the sword of impeachment over this lawless president's head. Yes. Not that we want to put the nation through that ordeal, but the threat of it will rein in this lawless president. And that's why we must defeat Jeanne Shaheen. Yeah. We must. Jeanne Shaheen is wrong for America. Jeanne Shaheen has consistently supported Obamacare. Jeanne Shaheen actually spoke out in support of the president's nefarious scheme to empower the IRS to go after his political enemies. Yes, and Jeanne Shaheen has called our concern with the nation's ever-growing debt a manufactured crisis. No. It's not our concern with the debt ceiling that's a manufactured crisis, but she and her fellow spendaholics in Washington have created a crisis.
Right.
Now, we are to a point where local, federal, and state government spending consume 42% of GDP. That means 42% of everything all of us produce going to work every day. 42% of the fruits of our labor are being sucked up by government programs. 42%. Do you get 42% of your happiness from government? No. once before in the entire history of this nation did government spending ever reach 42% of GDP. And that was during World War II, when we were embroiled in a global crisis for the survival of liberty. Nothing today justifies the government expropriating 42% of our labor. We must turn that around. The fact is, and I say this with deep regret, our government has been hijacked by people who do not share our values and do not share our commitment to the United States Constitution. We have a president who is presiding over the downgrading of our economy and the degrading of our constitutional liberties. That's right. So, on this very special holiday, let us renew our commitment together to turn this nation around. We can recapture our nation for ourselves and our children and grandchildren. We can elect a president who is committed to honoring his or her oath to obey the Constitution. We can elect a president who will repeal Obamacare and rein in the government spending. And we together, we Americans, we know the fundamental truth that binds us. Freedom is not free. It's up to you and me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so happy to celebrate with you. Thank you. Thank you, Rich.
I mean, I don't know what to say to follow that, but isn't it nice to know that there are people out there in this country like Betsey McCaughey who are dedicated enough to read what they did to us, smart enough to make it so the rest of us can understand it, and willing to take that show quite literally on the road and come to grassroots like this here in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. Go on to Fox News, walk into the Lion's Den at CNBC, and take the show across the country, and do that for all of us to be able to spread the word. And so, obviously, was that? Yeah, that's right. I'm sure she'd be willing to sign the books that she brought, beating Obamacare. I'm sure that we all should take the time to read. How much is the book?
$15.
$15. All right, I'll tell you what.
Sold.
I'll give you 20 if you sign it.
I didn't make a lot of money tonight. Thank you.
And we have a responsibility, even beyond the individual issue or issues we most care about, to make sure that work like this that will destroy literally everything we stand for and take from us whatever that issue might be, is something we carry into every corner of what we do here in our political lives. So a great big thank you and a round of applause to Betsey McCaughey. I am seriously buying that book, and I encourage you to do the same thing. And yes, I do want it signed.
Croc TV.